Okay, so if you guys want to join me on that link, I'm going to mute my audio here in Google Meets and also turn off the video, okay? All right, guys. All right, so here we are. Just wait until a few more people join us. First of all, let me know that the audio is okay. I know we've had issues in the past, but I think we've gotten it sorted out. All right, good. All right, so here we are. So this is what we want to talk about. We have our plan, okay? So everyone for the most part made their plan, and then they made their first grouping of tiles. Now here's the thing that I noticed. Not everybody had this issue, but some of you did. I recognize that this is not that clear in that this is 9 unique tiles. It's not one tile. This is actually 9 unique tiles. The center tile being the key. This one tiles in every direction. So this one can tile vertically, indefinitely, or horizontally, indefinitely, right? So we could basically take this central tile here and then just kind of use it to fill in all of this space here, right? And then when we get to a corner, then we use this unique corner piece. And when we get to a ground to wall corner, we use this unique corner piece, right? So we want to make sure that we have this central tiling piece. We want to make sure that these wall pieces, these middle wall pieces, tile vertically indefinitely. We want to make sure that these middle horizontal pieces tile horizontally indefinitely, okay? So those are the main things that I want to make sure that you guys are aware of. So we're going to go through this. We're not going to necessarily go through all of them. One thing I'll say is just be mindful of the fact that I'm not, pointing out mistakes or issues to disparage anybody. It's simply to help us all learn together, okay? And I'm sure I've used this analogy before. I've used it countless times. I know I've used it with other classes. I don't know if I've said it to you guys last semester. I'm sure I did. But I don't know when it was. I think it was in the 80s or the 70s or something. But like Japanese auto companies, the manufacturers, they came to visit their American counterparts and just kind of observe how they kind of do business, right? How they manufactured cars. And one thing they observed, they noticed some inefficiencies, and they said, "You guys can make your cars faster and cheaper. Why don't you do what we do?" And they were like, "What do you guys do?" And they said, "Well, whenever somebody runs into a problem, on the line, if they something goes wrong or something breaks and they have to fix it, instead of just fixing it for that one person individually, they call the whole company over together to see and observe how they troubleshoot and solve that problem. And because of that, when they go back to work, anyone else who encounters that same problem can just kind of just blast through it themselves. They don't have to stop production. They don't have to call the manager over, the supervisor over. They can just handle it themselves. So anytime a mistake happens or anytime something goes wrong on the line, they would basically do that. The American companies did not take the advice for whatever reason. But when I read about that, I was like, whoa, that's really interesting. I think this applies to a lot of teaching. And that's one of the main reasons why I have you guys post your work kind of like in a way that each other you can see what each other is doing. So so that's the reason for that. Okay, so I point out issues that maybe one or two of you are having, so that we can all learn from it together. Okay, so the level of the entire class can go up, and then somebody else who has that same issue can kind of learn from that. All right, so that's the main reason for it. So this one looks actually okay. So you have this central tile, Braden. So this looks good. The only thing I might suggest to you is that try to get these. Try to get it to hook up a little bit more. There's kind of like a discernible pattern here. It's not the end of the world, but if you can kind of find a way to get rid of that, or make it more deliberate, I would maybe do that. And again, I'm not going to go through each and every one of these. I think this one looks okay, but you need a few more. So Tyler, this one, you've got the good start, but you need the rest of your 9 tiles. So that's missing here. This one, I think it works. Yeah, I think you're okay. Same thing. You might find a way to get these to hook up a little more seamlessly and tile. So you want ideally for this line to hook up nicely to this line, not to end and there would be a very discernible seam, right? So again, we'll look at Krita and look at some examples of how to overcome that. But overall, I want to say thanks, guys. Good job on your plans, just your basic layouts, on just mapping out like basic colors. I think that's effective. So I'm looking through. Some of you did not include the tiles. Make sure that you have that. All right. Make sure you have the tiles. Without those, you're going to be in trouble. And for whatever reason, I don't know why Canvas does this, but sometimes these embedded images, the links break. I don't know if it's that you move them in your file structure or if you've deleted them on your end, but try not to do that. If for whatever reason, the you're running into space issues, or you don't have enough space, please host these elsewhere. Host these images on like another site. Maybe start a blog or put it on your Facebook or something, and then just link to it. Okay, you can embed links from other pages. Canvas does have this issue, it seems, of limited kind of storage. So I know some of you guys ran into that problem last semester. All right, so this is kind of cool over layout, but Mohit, for you, just be mindful.
Some of the people have.
Yep. Some of the people.
Some people can see the tile sets. That's the thing. Because
Oh.
I could go on the same canvas and then I could see the images that are come up.
What? So that could be a cache issue, and I might have cleared my cache. I don't know. Keep running into storage issues on my computer, but I wonder if it's that. Like, that's a good question, because it could have be saved in your cache of your browser. But I wonder, Mohit, if you deleted it from Canvas, or if it's still on Canvas.
Yeah, Gavin.
Yep.
It's still on Canvas, but like it shows for me, like the tile PNG. And
Interesting.
stuff.
Because they did show for me before, but like, oh, here we go. Oh, I just have to refresh. Okay. All right, we're good. We're good. But sometimes that doesn't work for me for some reason. All right. So just this one. Now, I don't know if this is your 9 tiles, but try to make sure that this central piece would, in fact, tile vertically, horizontally, right? Indefinitely. Right now, it's looking like it would not. So just be careful there. Also, not super related, but there's like kind of like a, it's one of those like optical illusion things where if you look at the red dots and then you look elsewhere, you see these darker dots, which is kind of interesting. All right, so this one works. Fairly simple, but I think it works. Just again, make sure you have that central tiling piece that will, in fact, do the job for you. I think this is where we're starting to kind of maybe find one. This was not clear. So I don't know that there's a central tile here. So just make sure that there is a central tile that will tile horizontally. If that's the case, and vertically, sorry. If that's the case, then, you know, you're okay. But it is a little bit hard to see when they're arranged this way. Just totally fine. That's what I asked for.
Yeah, Gavin.
Yep.
So like so when I was so I made a revised version of that. So if you want me to post it, I can.
Yeah, we're gonna have to post it. So I have a weekly activity for you to revise them, anyways. So if you've already revised it, all the better, right? And then you'll just basically show me your updated versions. And I will also have you guys make a few more unique tiles. So for like these corner pieces here,
Okay.
for example, I'll have you speak to what that looks like. What does this little kind of pie slice of grass look like as it transitions from ground into wall, right? And then this one, again, I don't know if this is the same person that's speaking now. Oh no, this is somebody else. But on Milena's here, for example, make sure, Milena, that this is not just one tile. This should be 9 tiles, and this central tile has to tile vertically and horizontally. And I can automatically tell based on the fact that the top half of this central piece would be green and the bottom half would be brown, that this would not work. So just be mindful of that, okay? And again, we'll kind of look at this again. And a lot of you guys probably have already kind of worked this out, but it is worth really getting solid with this going forward. All right. And I think this one looks kind of okay. For the most part, probably want to get a little bit clearer on what's going on with the ground. One thing that you'll have to be mindful of is if this silhouette here is what the ground is, and behind that is supposed to be transparent, you're going to run into some problems with collision potentially, because it might look like the character, depending on where you put the collision boundaries, it might look like the character is just walking on air in some spots. Unless you put the collision a little bit lower and you have the character walk on a plane slightly below here. But that's a programming thing. But you'll need to make sure that the two kind of work in conjunction with one another. So just be mindful of that. But other than that, I think this one looks like it should be okay. You might want to make the walls a little bit more unique. You got your ceiling here, which looks okay. So you have the right idea, but you could probably finesse this some more, okay? All right, this one looks good. Yep, so this is the right idea. What you'll also want to do, and I don't know who this is, Anthony, so this is more of a top-down. So you'll want to do the reverse as well. So you want to have like basically the opposite. So green on the inside island and then cobblestone on the outside. So you want to have the two that can hook up, right? So that you can make any kind of shape that you want. So you can have, like, if you wanted, for example, a little patch of grass inside this cobblestone, you'd have the tiles to allow you to do that as well. All right. So that's kind of what I would suggest for yourself. And in doing that, that'll give you some of the corner pieces that you're missing here, like here as well. All right, so you have the right idea. This one is good. I think you're right on track. I think the only thing I would say is make sure like the tiles here look a little on the small side. I wouldn't mind seeing what it looks like with the central tile kind of more populated, like more of the level built with your tile set. So you can get a better sense of what it all looks like. But you might want to find a better transition from this rock to the tile, or find two things that kind of jive a little bit better, jive better together. These feel like two totally unique treatments, so just be mindful of that. And think about maybe it's a color change thing. Maybe this bright saturated blue doesn't necessarily work. But again, it all comes back to the theme, the I guess the story behind your game and what makes the most sense for that. Watch out here. You have a little bit of a sharp transition from this corner piece tile into this horizontal tiling piece. Try to get a little bit more of a clean, seamless, invisible transition happening here. Okay, and same thing here. So just be mindful of those. This is great. I think I definitely can see. I like how you've kind of clarified what's what. This works really well. It's a little hard for me to see the actual tile, but I think it works nicely. You don't have to, Connor, but you might lighten up the top little sliver of that ground piece, just to suggest that some light is hitting this, and you might darken here, and you might darken the sides. It's totally up to you. I think it does work though as it is, and for all of you, almost all of you, you are going to need some kind of tiling background piece as well. Okay, so delineate the walkable area of your level, and the kind of the background of your levels. Okay, so that's kind of another thing that I'll be looking for next. All right, I think this one, it looks like it's just the one tile, so just be mindful of that. Try to make sure you have that set of 9, and that they all kind of will serve their function. This one's interesting. I get it. So you're taking a slightly different approach. I think it works. I wouldn't mind seeing more of how you have planned this out, but I think it will potentially work. So maybe keep going. Just maybe think of like what other kinds of tiles you might have. What if you were going to show this more elevated, or you want more depth here, what would this transition into below it, right? And would those pieces hook up to each other left to right? So think about that. This one I think looks okay. I think you have the right idea, so you're solid there. Good. And I think what's throwing me a little bit is the size of the characters relative to the tiles. It's fine. I guess I was picturing characters being smaller relative to the tiles, but however you want to do it is totally up to you. So long as you can build your levels, I think it's fine. This one works, but just be careful. I feel like this one you could probably finesse this a little bit more. Get these wall pieces working. Actually, this would work for a wall piece, I think, but it will have like a kind of a pattern to it. Light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. And possibly the same thing for this central piece. So just be mindful of that. See if you can't get it similar to how other people did it, where you have this trim around the edge, and then the kind of the tiling piece sitting in the center, a little more seamless, not as obvious that it is tiles. Okay, this looks like a good start. I just think you're missing the side piece, unless of course this is what this side is supposed to look like, and there's not supposed to. Okay, maybe that's what you're going for, but in that case you might want another set of tiles that's mirrored from this, or like similar to this but has the trim on the other side, so that if you ever did want to have icing on the right hand side here, it would work. Okay, because the way it is now, the icing can only go on the left hand side. This one, same issue as what I mentioned prior to somebody else, is that these tiles won't work tiling vertically. So it looks like you will probably be able to work horizontally and add your horizontal spacers, but you'll need some vertical tileability as well. Okay, so you want to make sure that top to bottom it will hook up seamlessly. All right, this one looks okay, simple, but it works. Of course, when you're in your final tile set, you will need these lamps as kind of unique elements that you can throw in. This one looks good. Yeah, good job here, Josh. This one looks like it should also be good. Maybe not actually, as I'm looking at it. See here how we have this wedge shape. This will not easily tile vertically, right? Because what you'll get is like a zigzag, like a sawtooth kind of pattern, right? So imagining this tile being here, see how this thickness here, if I stack it here, it'll go thin and then immediately to thick, and then it'll kind of go like that. So you want to make sure that at least within the edge here, that this is going to be a little bit more straight vertical, okay? Or at least the width here is the same as the width at the bottom. All right, same here on the other side. All right, this one looks like it should be okay. Again, it's hard to tell. I don't know if this is a set of 9 tiles or if this is just one tile, so just be mindful of that. All right, Jake, and make sure you again have that central tiling piece that just works. Now I think that we've gone over the most of the issues, and some of these, it looks like it's hard to tell, but it looks like maybe they just haven't completed the set of tiles. So we're supposed to have 9 here. This might just be the one corner piece. Now you are supposed to start with the central piece to use that as a base for each of the corner pieces and the wall pieces on the floor and the ceiling pieces as well, just so that to ensure that the tiling is consistent throughout. Okay, this one here again, you don't have the tile ability. Okay, it's a little bit too unique. Okay, so you're taking a different approach. You're going like with Lego block pieces. This could work. The only problem you're going to run into is, Patrick, is that you're going to have to make a lot of unique tiles. You're not going to be able to leverage the use of like a small subset of tiles to kind of speak to a lot of different levels. I don't mind if you do this. This is totally fine. Just make sure that you do make all the tiles that you need. You can probably have a grass piece here that's just going to be like tileable, so you can use that over and over indefinitely. You can have variants of it too, so you can have one with a tuft of grass here, one with a tuft of grass there, and that would be fairly easy to make those variants if you didn't want it to look too repetitive. All right, and anyone can do that. You can always make a variant of a tile piece just to kind of mix things up. This one looks like it should be fine. A little on the dark side. Okay, so for you, you'll want to think about what color is this backdrop wall. So you'll have a brick wall for BG. We'll have moss on it. You'll have to think about the value of that just to make sure it reads properly with this. And make sure your character also reads on the in there somewhere. I think this one looks like it should be okay. Watch the transition here. You got these nice little rock formations. I think it'd be nice if that's continued up into here. No, I think this one looks okay for the most part. Yeah. So if things are okay, I won't really mention anything. This one, it's a little hard to tell, but it looks like this one may or may not work. It might. Yeah, this one might work because you have the borders right on the lighter strips. Okay, so that should be okay there. Watch out here. Looks like you'll have tiling issues for this one. And yeah, I think you have the right idea here. The only thing I would say is it looks like you just rotated the piece, and because of that, the grain of the bricks is rotating as well. So try to make it so that you don't rotate the base piece. You just maybe rotate this other piece on a separate layer, okay? And that will kind of give you the result that you're after. Instead of rotating the entire tile, you just rotate that piece. Okay, and this is a start. This looks like it will not hook up seamlessly, so see how the right hand side here won't match with the, well, my head's in the way. I don't know how much. So the right hand side here, see how it's dark, and then on the left hand side it's light. That'll cause a clear kind of a jarring effect. So make sure that you're in Krita, and make sure you're using the wrap mode. Okay. And yeah, we'll jump into Krita in a moment, but yeah. Okay. I think this one looks like it should be okay. Yep. All right. Cool. All right. So I don't know if we need to go through all of the remainders, all the remaining ones. I think hopefully it's clear what needs to be done. Oh, this one definitely is not going to tile properly, so just be mindful here of what you have going on in the middle. You want to be able to reuse this over and over and over again. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think it'll tile properly, but it looks like it will not. And I could be wrong, but again, you want to be able to take this central piece out, stack it left and right, stack it vertically, and have it appear as though it's like one seamless piece of art. Okay. All right, this one looks great. This one's really good. A nice pixelated version. Cool. For a top-down game. So that should be good. All right, cool. So we're through the first page. Anyone want me to definitely look at theirs? I can look at a few more. This one looks like it should also work. I would maybe get a more unique side wall piece going. Again, assuming this is not just one tile, right? Assuming that this is your set of 9 tiles. And you probably also want a more unique kind of ceiling treatment here at the bottom as well. Okay. All right, so Jonah Reeve we'll look at. Okay, this one, Harrison, this looks great. I think this will work. Really nice. Yep, this is perfect. And you can do this. Like, this is, you know, you're not hiding the fact that you're working with tiles and you're putting a seam right on that spot, which is fine. It's totally fine. You can do that and it works. Cool. This one also looks like you might run into a tiling issue. It's hard to tell. It might be that you guys have done such a good job that I can't fully pick it up, but I think that you're going to have a problem with these 2 lines and the fact that there's only one line on this side. So yeah, so your central tile will not work. And you want to make sure that these, the floor tile, the ceiling tile also tile horizontally, and then your wall tiles here will tile vertically, right? I think this one looks okay. You probably could revise it and get it a little tighter and more polished looking, but I think it works. Nice that you use graph paper here. This is a very big, elaborate level, but I love the fact that you're having fun with it, and you're kind of really starting to plan out, you know, what this could be. This is a level. This is a, you know, you even say that my enemies are here, or there's a secret key that you have to find here, right, to be able to get to the end. But this is why we're in school for this, right? We hopefully have a passion for making games. We want to tell stories and create these interactive experiences. And it starts here, right? This is planning stage, the design stage. This looks like it should be interesting. I think you could tighten it up. I'd love to see a second pass on this, but I really like it. I think you should be okay. It will be hard for me to fully kind of evaluate until I see it in proper context. So that's another thing. As soon as you can, try to map out some of this in order to really get a good grasp on whether or not it's going to work properly. All right. So this looks pretty okay. I think this is touching on some of the tools I'm going to show you guys today. But yeah, I think this works. That's your central piece. You have your wall pieces. Good. Yep, so that works. You might want to think about why that pattern is there and think if maybe you can disguise it a little bit better, or have things a little bit more organic looking. It's totally up to you, but technically this will work. This one's missing the tiles, so make sure that you've got those tiles spoken to. Hard to tell, simple, but I think this looks like it should work as well. And this one looks like will not work, so just be careful here. We need a set of 9 tiles again, one central piece that will tile vertically. Be careful. You might have had it set up that way, but then you just might have gone a little bit too far down with your grass. Okay, and then that will destroy the integrity of this central tileable piece. But it looks like more so, it's hard to tell, but it looks like you might just have the one tile and not a set of 9. Okay, so make sure that you have 9 tiles there that you're working with it. So here we can see the tiles. Make sure that there's no visible seams, so just be careful there. Make sure they hook up seamlessly. You want it to be totally you want to trick your audience into thinking that this is one unique piece of art. It's not like a whole bunch of little tiles, depending on how you're approaching it. Some games don't hide the fact that they're using tiles, but some people try to hide it. They want to make it seem as seamless as possible. Okay, so you'll need more tiles here. This is not enough. This one looks like it should be okay. Again, hard to tell. This one looks like it could also be okay. Just make sure that, again, this central piece will tile vertically and horizontally, but I think you're okay. This one has a problem, so this ground here is going a little bit too far down, so it's destroying the central tile here, right? So again, you're gonna get the white juxtaposed against the black, so get this black white pattern as you tile this central piece vertically. I think same here. Make sure you have a central base tile to work off of, and you have a total set of 9 tiles. This one's great. This one's really clear. This will work really nicely. Good job, Nathan. Really like these tiles. Yeah, for sure. No, this is great. This will work really nice. So we can start to see how these are put into place. You'll need another tile piece potentially. We're going to talk about that today as well, which is going to be our floor to wall concave piece, which is going to be this tile here actually. So you'll have your regular floor piece here, but then this one will have a transition in the corner, a little slice, a pie slice of a bit of a wall into the floor. Okay, and then we'll have the opposite that we'll use in other situations, which will be ceiling to wall. All right, so we'll look at how to create those. I think this one looks like it should be pretty good. It's hard to tell, so we see the seam here. So just make sure that if that's happening, it's happening deliberately, but I think it would work better if that's not visible. And you might have just put that in to make it obvious to us what's happening, which is fine, but just make sure that try to get rid of that for the final version. All All right. I think this one you'll need the 9 tiles. This one, I think you should be okay. It's hard to tell, but I think technically it should work. But I think more can be done for this one, especially to make sure it makes sense with the environment that you're making. I think this one looks like it should be okay as well. This one looks like it's gonna be okay. Maybe not. I need to see that this central piece will work. I think that you just might have 1 tile. Okay, so you'll need a set of 9. So make sure you have that. Okay, same thing here. Looks like 1 tile. You'll need 9. Okay, make sure it's square as well. This one's hard to tell. I think it'll work, but it's a little hard to read. Maybe don't go quite so dark on these edges. It's up to you. It might work, but just be mindful of that, Kyra. But I think it looks like this central piece will in fact work. So I think you should be okay. It'll be nice actually when you have these other unique pieces in, like this tree and waterfall and things like that. So that'll be cool. All right, so that brings us back to mine. So again, we do have this central piece right here, and then a floor piece right here, right? A wall, and a ceiling. All right, guys. So overall, solid stuff. Really cool ideas. I look forward to you guys fully realizing them. I do want to jump into Krita and kind of look at some more of the tools that we can work with to map this out. Okay, so I was messing around with this a little bit earlier. It's always fun for me. I don't always know the purpose for it, but I really like making these kinds of patterns. It's just really enjoyable to me. It's not always applicable for these kinds of games that we're making, but there are some tools that we can kind of look at to maybe help us get there. So we'll look at that. Here's another one. This is really good stuff for like texture painting. You guys might be surprised. You might surprise yourselves. Okay, so load up Krita. Load up Krita. We're gonna go to File. File New. And what I've done, I just go to Texture Templates. Now, my texture here, it's a little bit bigger than what you guys were working with and what I had you work with before. So this is 1K. And this might be good for like a big background tile piece or something like that. This is for 3D games. Usually you'll use like textures files for like for background elements or characters, whatever. But we'll have like textures of different sizes, usually powers of 2, so 512, 1024, 2048, 4096, etc., etc. For our purposes, for a 2D game, 1K is probably a little bit too big. So we were looking at like a 128 by 128. So let's go to custom document here instead, actually. We'll change our width here to 128. And of course, this will be whatever tile size you are working with. If you want to experiment with something bigger just to see what it would look like, feel free. By all means, you can do that. But for our purposes, we do want to work with like smaller chunks. We want to work with smaller elements. All right, so we have this. Let's make a new layer. I have to say, and I've been saying this, Krita continues to impress me. I think I've totally abandoned Photoshop at this point. I've also found another program that's kind of cool. It's called Leonardo Paint. It's not very mature, but it's really, really powerful. But here we are in Krita. And if you remember, you can press Shift W to put on your wrap mode. So this is how you make your central tile piece. You can press Shift W again to toggle in and out. So if I make my central tile, it looks like some of you guys did this. If I don't have wrap mode turned on, and I just kind of go like this, and then I press Shift W, you'll see how I kind of wind up with this kind of glaring, kind of harsh edge, right? Where I have light against dark, I have lines that don't continue, and all this kind of stuff, right? So that's why we want to make sure we leave wrap mode on while we draw. So when I come to the edge of my canvas, it basically just starts drawing on it wraps around to the other side of my canvas again. All right, so I can easily get these really nice kind of patterns and kind of treatments in my overall scene. Okay, so this is 128 by 128, so it's not huge, but it's not tiny. It's enough to get a decent amount of detail. All right. Okay, so our tiling texture could be something like this. All right, but there are a couple of other extra tools that we can look at that I didn't show you yet. Let's press. Let's get back to the scene here. So up top we have our horizontal mirror and our vertical mirrors. So we could also work with these. Let's make a new layer. Oops. And so you see we get like this kind of patterning happening, and I think some of you guys have done this. Okay, but if I turn on my wrap mode as well, again Shift W, I can get a more interesting pattern happening. All right, something that repeats. Okay, and I'm just basically making smaller tile pieces and just kind of playing around with it. Like I find this very fun. And I can't think of like a great use for these, but it's very enjoyable to make them. I used to use a program called 3D Coat to do this, which is it's the 3D programs mainly for texturing and sculpting and things like that. But this is all stuff that we can kind of work with here. What we have to be careful of is not making a background that takes too much attention away from what we're really supposed to be paying attention to, which is our character, and the overall level, not just some of the details, in certain spots. So finding ways to kind of have that kind of interesting detail, but then harmonize it, push it back a little bit, is always a nice back and forth kind of that you want to have. Okay, and I'm guaranteed now to have something that will tile horizontally perfectly and also vertically, right? So we have that. So that's one method that we can use. So Kai, you activate it up top here on the top of our canvas. You can see these little these guys here, so I can just hit those. And now here's an even cooler thing. Let's make another new layer. So you'll see that there's this tool called the multi-brush. You can activate it by pressing the Q key. Q for QWERTY. And that's going to give us our multi-brush. you'll want to go into your tool options, wherever your tool options window dialog is, and in there, I think by default it might be set to symmetry, I think. Yeah, so you can kind of get these kinds of patterns going, right? And you can change the number of brushes, so you can set this to say 3 if you wanted to. So this is like, when I learned about stuff like this, I'm like, why have I ever used Photoshop, you know? And I know why I used to, but I feel like Krita's at a point where I don't have to anymore, right? Outside of maybe some simple photo editing or, you know, things like that. Probably just use Krita. But here we have this ability to kind of create these interesting tiling elements. I can turn on wrap mode. So I might run into some problems here. This may or may not work because 3 is a kind of a weird number to try to kind of work with, to kind of get this to properly hook up. But there's probably some interesting patterns that we can make. Okay, but like I said, 3 is kind of a strange number of pieces to manage, but we get some really interesting treatments happening, right? Some interesting ideas coming out. But let's back out. Just gonna make a new one. So we can set the brushes to, or actually what I can do, I can try 3 again. You can also change the rotation. I can set the rotation to say 120. We can kind of see what that gives us. If that allows us to hook things up better. And I don't think it does. I think 3 is just kind of a awkward number of pieces to deal with. So we can set this though to say 8 or 5 or something. 8 is also going to be a little bit tricky. Okay, but we can do some interesting things, especially if we really need a kind of like a special pattern, like a stained glass or a carpet, an intricate carpet idea or something like that. There's another mode, not symmetry. We have snowflake. Snowflake is a little bit more, it's a little easier to manage. So if I set this to say back to 4, and I would go in snowflake mode, it's going to give me a more like, I think the term is mandala, but a more like kind of consistent okay. So someone said you guys can't do this. I think you can, you know, I think you can. It's just a matter of like using the right tools, approaching it in a certain way. But don't do this just for the sake of doing it. Do this if it kind of speaks to the types of tiles that you need for your project. And I'm just basically changing the size of my brush here, changing the colors to something out, tracing some of the shapes that I make. Sampling colors. Okay, and hit Shift W here. And again, we don't have to totally hide the fact that these are tiles. We can make it very obvious. Right, that these are tiles. All right, but again, it's really easy to overdo it. And again, depending on what you're wanting to do, you might want to find ways to harmonize these tiles so they don't become too. They don't draw too much attention to themselves. Okay, but it can be quite a lot of fun to just play around and see what you might come up with. And Snowflake in particular is quite nice to work with. I'm going to try one last one here. We'll use Snowflake. We'll set the rotation here to 45 degrees. Okay, so I get these pieces rotating out diagonally. All right, so those are the kinds of things that we can work with. All right, and then of course we could add new layers. And add any kind of unique elements that we feel are necessary. Okay, but this would be our starting point, our central tile that we could kind of then continue to build on. Now, we don't have to stick with one of these methods. I can, of course, start with this maybe as a base and then go over top of it with something else like just my regular brush on a new layer, and have something that's a little bit more asymmetrical. Okay, and you see I switch back and forth here between the different modes. Or between wrap mode, I should say, and regular mode. And I can go in and just kind of customize it more, right? In ways that I wouldn't be able to do with all that symmetry turned on. So I could speak to some shadows or whatever if I wanted to do that. Just turn this back on. And if you like games like World of Warcraft, or if you like that art style at Blizzard where they do hand painted art, this is a good opportunity to kind of practice that. Where you work with opacity dynamics to try to get like different effects, and you kind of paint in like edge highlights and things like that, right? So just be mindful. I'm making my brush bigger and smaller as necessary. As I go through and do this, let me darken this down some. And truthfully, the sky's the limit, right? The sky's the limit on how you guys approach this. Any style is okay, so long as it kind of suits your project, your game. But have fun with it more than anything, and try to let it be motivated by what it is you're trying to say ultimately, and the audience experience that you're aiming for. Okay, so here I started with something that was like using the multi-brush in snowflake mode with 4 different iterations. I think I set the angle to 45 degrees, and then I went in and I kind of tweaked it some to get something else. And I love this, that we can kind of just scroll in, scroll out, press Shift W, toggle the symmetry or the wrapping on and off, just to see the impact that we get. So that's our central base tile. If we were to do a wall or a floor version, again, we would modify this. We can test this out. Just go into Shift W here. Say I want to have a blue floor. Okay, so again, for this piece, I only need to make sure that it tiles horizontally. Okay, and I can press Shift W here. Just make sure I don't cross this border. And all I have to do is make sure that it hooks up left to right. Like so. Okay, be careful. Where some of you guys went wrong is you drag this ground too far down into the middle, right? So you would affect the integrity of what we're doing with the other tile. So this, now this would be my central tile piece, right? This would be my central tile, and I have another version now which I could stack on top of that. This would be my floor tile, right? And then I do another version which would represent my ceiling tile, right? Which would basically be the same thing, but this time I would kind of work into the bottom. And then kind of go from there, right? So again, if you're forgetting how to do it, you can revisit the lecture from before the break, or you can basically go here. We could save this out, file, export, either export or save as. I can do export. And this would be central. And I'll want to export this as a PNG. Okay, and then I'll add this file, export. I'll call this floor. Okay, and then I'll add this one, file, export, ceiling. Okay. All right, and so once I have those, I can basically start a brand new document. We'll make this one big enough to hold 5 by 5 tiles. We're going to turn on our grids. And I'll be honest, I forget how to turn on the grid in Krita. If someone remembers, they can let me know. I can right click here on anywhere in my in the editor. So not outside the canvas, I can right click and I can bring up my grid and guides. And I can click show grid here. I can change the size of my grid. I'll just set this to 128. I'll turn my subdivisions off. Okay, so I have 5 units here by 5 units. And now I can basically import my tiles. So there's a, next to the layer button, there's a little drop down. And I can go to file layer. Okay, file layer. And I navigate to the file that I want to load in. Okay, these are the files that I just saved out. I can only bring one at a time, so I'll bring my central one first. Okay, and you see it, it populates there. I can move this like so. It doesn't seem to be snapping like, yeah, there it's snapping. And then I'll open another file there. I can also drag drop these into Krita and tell it to open them as file layers. Let me save the folder location here this time. Okay. Okay, and we'll do that one more time. All right, so that's how we start our first set of 9 tiles. Just turn off my grid here. All right, so that's how we would go. I haven't done my wall pieces. I haven't done my corner pieces, but that's basically how you would start. Okay. Control Shift apostrophe. Okay, yeah. Thanks. Yeah. I think you're right. Let's just strictly try that. Control Shift apostrophe. There we go. Thanks. Nothing happens when you press Shift W. It could be the version Xylong of Krita that you have, or if not, you can go up here to I believe it's View, Wraparound Mode. Press that. I don't know if you have this button here, but this also does the same thing. There's a little button here that toggles that. All right. Yeah, it could be your key bindings as well. Yeah, you can always create your own key bindings as well in Krita. Might as well start doing it now if you're going to be using it a lot. So again, by virtue of the fact that we set it up this way, I can duplicate these layers, right? And I didn't tighten this one up as much as I could have, but if we've done it properly, these should be able to hook up seamlessly left to right. Okay, and these center pieces, I'm just pressing Control J here to duplicate. So my hotkeys are not, I'm not super on point with my Krita hotkeys at this point. But again, we can extend this out, right? Indefinitely. All right. But there are a couple of pieces that we need. So one thing, I don't know if I'll just put it to you guys, is there a way in Krita, in Photoshop, what I really like is I can hold down Control and left click on anything, it'll automatically take me to that layer. I don't know if there's an equivalent in Krita. I'm sure I'm sure it exists. I imagine they've changed how you do it because it's very easy, especially once you have a lot of layers, to get lost in the layers. Okay. All right, so what we need though is a piece that we haven't really looked at before, and that is a concave corner piece. Okay, so we might have a ground piece here, for example. Let's see if I can navigate to that. So if we have, say, a piece here, and we wanted this to hook up into a wall piece, this piece here will need a unique little sliver on it to turn it into a corner piece, a concave corner. So let's imagine that this piece here and again, not super fluent with Krita here yet, but with this layer selected, I'm going to click on this layer plus, so the new layer, a little drop down beside it. Okay, so I have this tile selected, and I want to make a clipping mask. So if remember we had clipping mask layers in Photoshop, I want to do the equivalent here in Krita. So with this selected, I'm going to go to transparency mask. I don't think this is going to work. I think this is going to mask in and out from that layer. If I paint on this. Yeah, so that's not what I want. Clone layer, group layer, filter layer, fill layer. Oh, let's try filter. No, that's probably not it. Local selection. So I just made a new paint layer. And I'm pretty sure there is a way to do this. I don't know exactly what it is, unfortunately. Merge with the layer below. Split alpha, isolate, select opaque. Duplicate layer or mask. Yeah, I don't know exactly how to do it. So what I'll do instead is I'll just on this layer, directly on this layer, I'll just lock the alpha transparency. On it. So toggle locks and visibility, toggle layer alpha. Okay, and now if I paint, say, a side wall piece, oh, no, that's not even working. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, guys. I'm a little bit out of my depth when it comes to Krita on how to do this stuff. But basically what I want to do is paint in kind of like a wall piece here, right? Because I didn't already do that. But we would want to figure out what does our wall segment look like? How is that unique? All right, and we would ultimately want to make sure that it hooks up vertically. For now, for the time being, I'm not going to worry too much about that. We'll just kind of make something that kind of works, or looks like it would work. All right, so that is merge that down. So this is kind of my side wall piece, but now I'll have to figure out what's that transition here from the ground to this corner. So this is me now working out my concave corner piece. Which is this one here. So I want to get some of that. And it looks like I can't paint directly onto that layer because it's oh, so that's why I couldn't paint on it. I think it's because it's a referenced layer. So it's referencing a location on my disk. So it's not actually a paintable layer. What I could have done instead is basically click on the folder, or I probably can double click on it to open an instance of that and then edit that directly. But for our purposes, for now, we'll just go like this. And you'll figure out what does that transition look like? How does that work from your floor piece into your wall piece. Okay, that way you won't have like weird gaps. Like, it might seem very trivial to add this extra tile, but it'll actually make a big difference and really help kind of add cohesion to your overall scene. All right, because you won't have like a little weird kind of gap, right? Because it'll look like you've overlooked something. So you see the difference between this, right, and this. Okay, and it's really up to you how you treat these, but it can be as simple as that. And if I were to hide this here, let's erase some of this. And hide this. Okay, that's the piece that I am left with. That's my little corner piece. Okay, and ultimately I'll need 4 of these. And the way we can treat this, we can actually have 4 of them like together in a group. So I can do it like this. So we start with our first set of 9. Right? This one tiles in each of these directions. These tile just like this. These ones tile left to right. And these corner pieces are unique, right? And then we can have a set of 4 concave corners. Okay, and each of them, I just did this one, but each of them has a little pie slice, a little sliver of, say, in this case, a floor to wall transition. In this case, a ceiling to wall transition, another ceiling to wall transition, and another floor to wall transition. Okay, where do I use these pieces? So anytime I have a floor piece and I have a wall piece, okay, I'll have to insert this guy into here, and this will kind of bridge that gap. And that's simply how that works. To set this up, like to help yourself, what you can do okay, you can either do them like right in a just like this, or you can take this piece here, stick it here, right? This is your one wall. You can take this piece, put it here. That's your other wall piece. You can take your ceiling piece, put it here. You can take your ground piece, put it down here. You can take your central tiling piece, put it one into each of these corners, and then bridge the gaps, right? And then kind of figure out what needs to go here, what needs to go here, what needs to go here. Once you're done with that, you can erase each of these, right? And then you can cluster these all together into a little clump like that. And then once you have that, you have these pieces, you have these pieces, you're pretty much good to go to make any kind of like 90-degree kind of change in your scene, right? You're not going to have all your ramps and your kind of like weird, kind of unique kind of situations, but any kind of like basic blocky structure that you need, this set of 9 plus this set of 4 will give you that. So this first set of 13 tiles will give you basically all the ability you need to make a kind of a basic level block out. The one last piece that I'd like for you guys to add for this next weekly activity is just some kind of tiling background piece. Okay, so just a generic kind of BG wall tile. Okay, and then basically that can be very simple to make. we don't have to think too hard and about what that one's going to look like. That could be file new. You can use the same scaling. You can use different scaling for this. It's really up to you. But I can maybe just to give a very, very simple example, I'll turn on my turn this guy on. Right, so like the most kind of cliche example for a backdrop would be kind of like a brick wall, right? Okay, so I'm glad that this is a little clearer, Ricardo. When I saw the examples, I could see there was some confusion with some people, so I felt it would be valuable to really drive this home, make sure everyone's solid with this prior to your submission. And also so that you can make put your best foot forward for your actual GamesCon games. So that was basically the idea here, is that we have something like this, that you could basically use as a backdrop. Doesn't have to be this big. We could do something a little smaller. By the way, just as an art hack in general, if you ever need to make a giant brick wall on a scene, and you don't want to paint it all in, do this, do a tiling pattern and then just throw it in, this is a huge lifesaver, and I'll just quickly show you what that looks like. Okay, so see already I have some problems, but I can easily fix them. Let's go into that other layer. Can get bricks that aren't totally uniform. They're a little wonky. Play with different colors. Okay, and again, just to make sure it's not too obviously tiling, I can harmonize things. I can also make variant versions of things, right, that hook up perfectly with this version, so I don't have to use the same kind of brick tile throughout. I can kind of have a cracked version on a different layer, right? So I can have a different layer here where I go ahead and make it a cracked version. If you're doing that kind of stuff, though, just make sure it doesn't cross the boundary. Otherwise, it won't work properly. But we could basically do a cracked version, or a version with extra dirt or grime, or something like that. And you wouldn't ever use this one solely. You just kind of sprinkle it in here and there. You'd use your other tile type for the bulk of the wall, and then you just kind of break it up with something a little bit different. I think somebody had a mossy wall, So maybe this is, certain spots you're going to have your moss or whatever. And however you want that to look. And then, most of the time you'll use this. But imagine if every 5 or so bricks you had like a little piece that looked like that, right? You can't do it all solely, but you'd have that variant piece. So when you go to export this, you'll export this version. So you'll have like, again, I only expect to see one background tile piece for this week. But once you have the one that works, it's very easy to make kind of like different versions. So I can go here, export, BG, save that, okay. And then I can turn on that moss and I go file, export, BG, V1. Okay. And then we're pretty much kind of coming to the fuller version of our tile set. What I'll show you now is how we would kind of start arranging this all together in the end. So as our tile set grows, we will have it looks like I have 2 on top of each other here. But as our tile set grows, we'll probably want to increase our canvas size. Resize canvas. I'll just anchor this here on the top left. I will go by inches. Let's just set this to 10. Okay, so as our need for tiles increases, we will gradually increase this page of different tile elements. So we'll have this one here. We'll have our central piece in the middle. This corner piece we'll have off to the side somewhere. Okay, we'll have our next corner piece, concave corner above it, and then our other 2 adjacent to those 2. Okay, getting lost in my layers a little bit here. So we have this. And so we'd have our pieces here. We'd need to make our corner piece, right? Our convex corner piece where this wall transitions into the ceiling in a pointy way, right? And not a convex way. or it's not a concave way, I should say. And then we'll also have our ceiling piece, or sorry, our floor piece here, and we'll have one here. And one here. Okay, and then for these guys, let's bring back okay, so we'd have our first set of 9, then we'll have our next set of 4. Any kind of ramp pieces that you need, you'll have in there. They'll all be kind of constrained to this grid. So you need to make sure that they're on this grid, because when you bring it into, say, Unity or Unreal or your own engine, you need to reference which quadrant in your, or which kind of which coordinates in your texture size you want to use. So imagine we have tiles kind of filling this whole piece up. Each tile is unique. We need to tell our engine using an offset of 128 pixels, go to the first element in our texture image. So this is, if the top left is say 0 coordinate 0 0, you'll say using a step size of 128, kind of get whatever images is at that location. And then you can say now get the one that is on X 128 pixels adjacent to that last one. And that's going to give you this piece, and so on, right? And then you can say on Y to step 128 pixels, and it's going to give you this one. So you do need to make sure that they are very precisely arranged. Just to kind of keep it predictable for your engine. And then you'll want to do the same thing actually later on when you export animations for use in game. You'll just need to make sure that you do have a tile sheet. That is something that I don't know if Krita does. Krita might take a sequence of images and it might be able to spit out a tile sheet. That's not something I've explored, but you might have to set that up manually. I wouldn't be surprised if it does it, or if there's a plugin that allows it to do that. But yeah, so let me just quickly continue on with this, and I'll just do a kind of a quick and dirty version of this. But basically what we want to have is we'll take this purple. So these ceiling pieces, and we'd want to set it up like more deliberately, right? So I'm kind of cheating here, but we'd want to make sure that these will hook up into our ceiling pieces properly, and also to our wall. Does everyone understand the purpose of what I'm doing here? Like this, these concave corner pieces. Okay, and then over here I'd have, this would kind of continue up like so. So don't do it the way I'm doing it. I'm just kind of doing a really quick and dirty version of this. I'm not kind of going in and double checking and making sure that, you know, the transitions are working perfectly, because ultimately that's what I would want to do, to make sure that these wall pieces do in fact tile and hook up properly. Okay, so our unique corner piece here, our unique corner piece here. And this will probably work out pretty well, but it is something I do need to kind of double check and make sure is working properly. And so here's my first set of 9. This is my second, or my set of 4, right, for my kind of corner slices, my concave corner slices. And then I'd also take my these wall pieces. So ultimately what we're going to wind up with is one kind of like big select or edit. Copy merged. So this is a really handy thing. Control Shift C, just like in Photoshop, copy merged. Okay, and we will paste this into this scene, move it, and we'll have these located somewhere in this space as well. So we have version 1. Okay, and this would be our background wall. And because I did it, might as well use it. Control Shift C. Control V, version 2. So once you do get into the kind of 2D game engine application, you will see that it's very easy to kind of take these and set up your palette and then just basically paint in an environment using these kind of building blocks, right? So you could select the central tile, and you can paint a large swath of just that tile piece. And then you could select your floor tile and then kind of paint that across to speak to everywhere where the character is going to be able to walk, right? And then grab your wall tiles and paint those in. So it becomes very, very straightforward, very easy to really map out your levels. And because you guys have already planned them out with like a basic level layout, it should be even more straightforward. We can also do different layers. So I could take this one and I can drop it back onto another layer. I don't want you to necessarily do it for this stage, but another thing we can do that also helps us is we could say take these. I've just merged it for simplicity here, but I could take that layer, go to filter, adjust, we can go to hue saturation value, can dial down the saturation, all right, adjust the lightness as well, make it maybe darker, make it lighter, and hit OK. And I can continue to adjust it. I like to always do a color balance adjustment. Yeah, nothing too crazy here, but maybe let's go with the shadows. See if we can't get those to pop a little bit more. Okay. So here's what I have to start with, and then anything else, any other element that I need in my sequence, I could basically continue to add to this list. So this is what I'm ultimately going to be looking for from you guys, is that is there a way to do something similar in Blender? So Ricardo, yeah, that could be okay if you just have like a flat color. So long as it looks good, ultimately, just don't do it just because it's easy. If it's easy and it looks good, more power to you. But Don't do it because it feels like a shortcut, right? So to do this in Blender, that is you can kind of with the painting and the wrapping, not quite, but you can set up textures. So you could put these onto polygons. Like you have a bunch of square polygons that could each have a texture on it. There's some things you can do in Blender. Yes, it's it's probably too complex to explain at this point though, but definitely something that that you can work with. All right, so we've gone on for a little while now, guys. Let's take a break. We'll come back. If you're interested, I could try to show you how this will how we throw this together in a program like Unity or something like that. Otherwise, I'm happy to give you guys time to work on this. If you want to prep and maybe kind of ask me for feedback, I would also be cool with that. So let's take a short break. Where is the grid tool on Krita again? Control Shift apostrophe. Control Shift apostrophe. You can also right click, so I can go up to the top here and just right click. And then I'll have an option here for grid and guides, and that's going to open up my Docker window. And then basically I have my different grid options. And I've just set my grids to be 128 pixels by 128 pixels with no subdivisions, just the one subdivision. All right, so let's take a short break, guys. Why don't we say 10 minutes? So if we could kind of reconvene at 10 past. All right. Who would want to see how we would take this and build a level in Unity? Or Unreal or something like that. Okay. You don't have to. As long as it makes sense to you guys, I think that's cool. Of course, for our purposes, for the assignment, I will expect that you're going to do a mock-up somewhere. So it can be in Game Engine, or it can be in just here in Krita, right? So where you basically take the tiles and take your plan, your layout, and then rebuild that using the tile pieces. All right. All right, guys. So let's take that 10-minute break, and then we'll reconvene in a bit. Ricardo, the levels, to be honest, I don't mind how big they are. I think what I saw for most of the plans, I think those were all fine. Like a one-screen level would be fine. Some of you guys have a multi-screen level, like a really big level, but it's really up to you guys. Regardless of if you have a big level or a small level, I think you'll still need these basic sets of tiles. Yeah, okay, so Mohit, why don't we make it March 5th? I'll make the assignment due March 5th. I'll put that into the... So once we're done with this, we're going to be pretty much done with it, and then we're going to jump like kind of headfirst into character animation. Okay, so I changed the deadline. It still says February 28th here, but I can also change that and re-upload this. But any questions, guys, about the assignment, the expectations here? What I'm looking for? Hopefully fairly straightforward. And then also, guys, I'm in the process of marking your assignment ones. I should be done in the next couple of days. From what I've seen so far, everyone's done fairly solid stuff. I think we're going to have to work on just polishing things up and making sure our animations are more fluid. Timing, for the most part, is solid, so good job there. I think it's just a matter of getting more in-betweens in, right? So kind of making sure we go in and put in those extra drawings. It does work without the in-betweens, but ideally we want to get them in. It makes our work a lot more fluid and lifelike. Okay. I actually have to make sure I have Unity on my machine here. Hold on. So somebody wants to see how this would get set up in Unity. Let me just double check. Unity. All right, so guys, if you want to see how to set this up in Unity, just make sure you have Unity loaded, and then I'm just getting it going on my side too. All right, so just installing Unity. It should be downloaded soon. In the meantime, just to quickly go over this. Again, I've changed the deadline. It's not February 28th anymore. It's going to be March 5th, okay? Friday, March 5th. So you will have about 5 extra days to work on this. For the 28th, though, there is a weekly activity where I'll expect that you guys are adding in the next 4 of your tiles. Okay, so these 4, these concave corner pieces. Okay. And then have at least 1 background tile as well. So, okay, 5 new tiles in total. And if you haven't done the first 9 properly, make sure that they are done correctly as well. All right. So that's what I'll be looking for. And just to quickly show you one more time.
Sorry, Gavin, I had a question.
Yeah. Question?
So for the the tile set, I just didn't understand what we have to do for the assignment, like the weekly activity.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so for the assignment, so first, provide like a very brief description of your of the level. Okay, so you can do the 7 P's for this if you like. Basically, break it down. What's the purpose? What does it look like? You know, what kind of world is it? Is it futuristic? Is it prehistoric? You know, is it dystopian? What is it? Is it cheerful? Is it bright and happy? Gather references. So get a minimum of 10 reference pictures. Okay. So external reference, not self-reference. So that basically means look at games, look at movies, look at illustrations that you really like in terms of look, feel, style, and try to draw from that, pull from that, and try to incorporate that into what you're going to be doing. Your level sketch. Most of you guys have done this already. So here I want a minimum of 3 level sketches. So explore a little bit. So don't just kind of go with that first idea. Do a little bit of exploration, and then one of them can be the kind of final version that you go with. And then the tile set level. So starting with a 3x3 grid. Okay, so that's your first set of 9 tiles. You're going to start with that central tileable tile, I guess, and then you'll move on to the wall tiles and the ceiling tiles and the floor tiles on all the corner tile pieces, and then kind of go from there. And then for the tile set, in total, you'll start with that first 9. I'm also getting you guys to make a further 5, right, for this week's activity. So that's going to bring you to a total of 14. But total, I'm looking for 20. So I want 20 tiles in total. So this can be ramps. This can be maybe a lamp or a fixture. This can be background tiles, foreground tiles, whatever you want it to be. But at the very minimum, you have to start with like the first 14 being this set of 9, this first set of 9, the next 4, okay, which are the concave corner pieces, and then the background tile pieces, okay. And then any other unique pieces that you think you need, you'll also want to include those. Truthfully, at the end of the day, however you come up with this 20, it's up to you. Because we're doing it already for the weekly activity, I recommend just building those, like using those as well. But it is not, it's not absolutely necessary. Okay. And these are just some examples. So I would count like if you had a little tree. Sorry, or a prop or
where can we find your like office hours and stuff?
Just email me or send me a Discord and we'll meet on we can meet on Discord. It's Thursdays at I believe it's around noon. But generally speaking, I'll meet with people whenever. And so just send me a message, send me an email, and we'll find a time to connect. And so so this is just kind of outlining different types of unique tiles that you'll potentially make, depending on what kind of layout you want to have for your level. And then this is basically it. So this is what I'm looking for. I do want to get these things on time. If for whatever reason you can't, let me know. Or if you have accommodations, let me know. We'll make arrangements. But if you don't talk to me and you don't get stuff in, like it's not gonna get graded after a certain point. So try to get it in the day of this March 5th. If for whatever reason something happens, you get it in the next day, you'll get a 10% penalty, and then beyond that, you'll get a grade of 0 on it. Okay, again, unless we've made some arrangements.
Can you explain part 4?
Part 4. Okay. All right, so part 4 is potentially a little bit confusing, but it's basically making the tiles. So it's kind of the process that we've talked about, where you start with that central tile and then you make the ceiling tile and the floor tile, and then kind of build it out from there. And let me just... Okay. Actually, looking at it, this might... Sorry, part 4, my apologies. This is not... this is more of a description on like how to make the tile set. What I'm actually looking for here for part 4, my apologies, is actually the layout. So kind of like a... Take your tiles and build out the level. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? Yes, no? Okay, cool. So my apologies there. This is kind of like more breaking down on how to make them, but what I do want to see is the is both your tile set. Okay, so the bank of tiles like what I've created here in Krita, something like this, but then also your implementation of these. So taking these and actually building out your level. Okay, so I do want to see both those. All right, so I'll clarify that. And
Sorry, can you post like what you expect for part 4 and part 5? Like
yeah,
an example of like
yeah. What
tile
I'll
sets
do
that you
that. I'll
want?
clarify that for you guys, and I'll re-upload that because I have to do it, re-upload it anyways for the to fix the deadline date. So I'll just make sure that that's clear. Okay, thanks for bringing that to my
Also,
attention.
real quickly, we are allowed to use the stuff that we've been doing in the
Weekly activities, yes. Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. So I will. I'll help clarify this. So I'm going to build out a level. Okay, so I'm just making a 2D project here in Unity. And I hope this will kind of bring home the value of setting things up this way. There's also a program called Tiled that allows you to kind of take a set of tiles and actually build a level using those tiles. It's pretty an interesting tool. You can make certain rules and everything like that. It's if you really get into it, it's pretty neat. That actually might be helpful for your games that you guys are making. This is it here. I'll share a link. It's a free program. Okay, but here I am in Unity, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start bringing in some of these assets that I have. The main asset being the tile set that I've created. So I'm going to go to Krita. I want this document. I'm going to go to File, Export, and I'll just call this tile set. And save that. Yeah, so Ricardo, I do want you to make the whole level with your tile sets, yes. You can do it in Krita, or sorry, you can do it in Krita. Yeah, you can Krita, Photoshop. You can use Unity if you want. You can also use Tiled if you want to use that. I don't care how you do it, but I do expect that you're taking those tiles that you made and Lego blocking them together to build your level. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to drop in into my assets. So I have 2D tiles, assets. I made a folder, 2D tiles. I will import new asset. I will navigate to the location where I saved this. And I'm going to get this whole image here, just Tileset. And I'm going to import that. And so here I have sprite mode. So it reads it as a sprite already. So I'm going to go to sprite mode and I'm going to hit multiple pixels per unit. And forgive me guys if I get this wrong, but I believe this is the way to do it. I might have to jump in and do something else, but I'm going to set this to the unit size of my pixels. It's 128. Mesh type tight. Oh, sorry, apply that. So now if I go in here, I'll have my sprites, but I have to actually, maybe, I think I might have to do it in here actually. So here we go. So right here in my sprite editor, I'm going to go to, there's this second drop down, and I don't know if you guys have the same version of Unity as I do. I don't use Unity as my primary game dev tool, so I haven't used it in a little while, so this version I'm using is a little bit different, but in my sprite editor I have the two drop downs. The second drop down I'm going to select, so in the previous versions of Unity this would be on the top right, but here it's right here. I want to go to grid by cell size. Okay, and the pixel size I want to use is 128 by 128. Keep empty rectangles. Offset 0. So I'll leave the offset to 0 because the pixels, the tiles are tight to each other. I don't need any padding either. Keep empty recs. I can leave that unchecked. And it's because this is not on a transparency, I don't think that will do anything. But then I'll have to go in here and I'll hit slice. Okay, and now you'll see that this is giving me unique tiles here. Okay, so each of these is its own unique tile. So now to fix this, all I have to do is hit apply. Okay, now if I click on this tile set, you'll see that each of those tiles is now its own kind of like discrete element. You don't have to have the white space in your tile set like I've done here. You can have them tight to each other just to kind of keep things a little bit more efficient. I just did it. I separated it simply for the fact that it's a little bit more human readable. But my primary game dev tool is Unreal at this point. That's the main one I've been kind of working with lately. I want to use Unity more. I just need to finish this game that I'm working on. And I also want to learn Godot at some point. But anyways, here we are. We can close this down. And so now what I need to make is I need to make a vehicle to carry these tiles. So what I'll do is create right click here, 2D object, and I want to make a I believe it's a tile map. Okay, so here's my tile map. Okay, so that's tile map, and I should be able to drag and drop these guys now into that tile map. Or I think there's also a tile palette. So sorry, component, tile map, 2D. So it seems to me there is a tile set, and it could be down here. Let me just quickly create tile. No, I already have these tiles here. So there is a way, I believe, to have the tile set open as like a kind of a palette that you can just draw from or pull from. I can't recall the way to do that off the top of my head, but it's okay. We don't have to. I can just go in here into my grid and then basically add these tiles. So I could take my corner piece. Oh, no, sorry, this is not correct. Tile map. Isometric tile map, hexagonal. So we can empty here. See if we can add a component to that. Sorry guys, this is not going quite as smoothly as I had hoped. And I think some of this stuff looks like it might have gotten changed around a little bit. Layout, grid layout group, canvas. If somebody knows how to do it, feel free to jump into the chat and let me know. If you're willing to bear with me, I'll just quickly find out. Just do a quick check here. Okay. Okay. So we've tile palette. So I don't see anything that says tile palette. So that's what I'm accustomed to, and Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. So it's in window. My 2D tile palette. There we go. All right. So create new palette. Cancel. I should be able to drag this in. Not yet. So let's create a new palette. Let's call this sci-fi. So you give the palette a name. Create. We want a rectangle-based palette. Create new palette. Sorry. Call it sci-fi. Create. So we have to save this. That's fine. Save it there. So we have this sci-fi. Oh, here we go. So I basically can drag this in. I will need to save this. Okay. So it's gonna be a lot of like empty tiles. Unfortunately, I probably could have brought in less, but here we have our tile palette. So that's what I was looking for. And then here on our grid, we should be able to paint, select here, and now paint with our tiles. There we go, into our tile map. All right, so thanks for bearing with me, guys. But you see how I can basically just go in here and now paint right into this and kind of set it up in that way. I can also make another tile map. And kind of paint with this other tile. I'm just going to switch my view from 2D to 3D. I'll select this. I want to move it. I want to move it backwards slightly. And then basically I can paint in my background there. So you see the value here. And I also have another tool like a paint marquee paint selection. So if I want to fill in a larger area, I can easily do so. I can take that unique tile that I had, the moss one, I just paint that in a few spots like so. Okay, and then I'll go back to that other tile map and we'll just basically speak to these floor tiles, these corner pieces. Oh. It looks like I'm reversed here. That's okay. Okay, and if I wanted to say have this coming through like that, I will need you'll see I can also select multiple tiles or just one tile. I just want to paint with one tile here. But I will need my corner piece right, wrong one. My corner piece here See, it has that sliver of the floor to wall. And I'll just do another one here. All right, so you're gonna have your plan, guys, and this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna map out your level, following your plan. We don't have a character here, but if we did, we'd put our character in. So let me just let's drop in a. If we have a player here, we'll position our player like so. We can give them capsule, collision, and all that, and we'd have our camera as well. So let's get our camera. Let's see what our camera's seeing. So I accidentally kind of got these, the order of these mixed up. So I want this to be on this side. Here we go. Get our camera going a little closer. Camera is an orthographic camera. To get the parallax going, we'd want it to be a perspective-based camera. Again, if we were to play the game, we would basically see our thing. We don't have obviously a character and controls or anything like that, but ultimately that's kind of where we would wind up, and we could walk and jump through this level. We'd also have to set up collision, of course, on the on these tiles, which is also fairly easy to do. But yeah, those are the other things that that we'd have to kind of think about and work on to fully bring this to bear. But for our purposes, we don't need to worry about any of that. All I want you guys to do is just build your level, right? And just show it to me. Take a screen grab. If you're really ambitious and you want to do a playthrough, you know, you can add a video to a playthrough. But just a simple screen grab would be sufficient. I can also bring in other tile sets as well, if I want to, or if I wanted to. So I could, let's create a new folder. Call this alien. In here, I can import I can go to Strange Alien Planet, and I can get this set of tiles as well. And I would have to do the same thing for this. I don't know if this makes a difference, pixels per unit, but I don't think it does. Sprite mode, we'll do multiple. Sprite editor. And then we'll go ahead here again, click on this, go to grid by cell size, make our cell size 128 because that's the size of each of my tiles. Hit slice here. Okay, and go ahead and hit apply. All right, and then we will need to window 2D tile palette. Okay, so that's where I got mixed up last time. I need a new tile palette. I don't want to use the same one. So I'll go here to create new palette. Call this sci or alien. Create. I'll have to save these somewhere. Tiles. Select folder. And I can basically drag these in. Okay, and now I can paint with these guys as well. All right, so that's basically how it works. I just realized I put that on the wrong layer. Make sure we're on the right layer here. There we go. All right, so hopefully I didn't confuse you guys. It's fun once you start kind of taking these elements, these assets that you've created, and then start bringing them all to bear in your project. And that's basically it, guys. That's how we map out our. That's how we would map out our levels. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. There's tons of tutorials on how to do this specifically, so you don't have to follow my clumsy approach here. But it is fairly straightforward. You do have to first slice your tiles, okay, up into the size that they are, and then you'll have to get your tile palette, right? Then you'll have to using your tile palette, you'll save it somewhere or choose a folder and then drag your tile slices into the tile palette. Make a grid, okay, a 2D a game object. You'll need a tile map, okay, and then you'll basically from your tile palette be able to paint into your tile map based on the unit sizes that you've specified. And that's basically it. Fairly straightforward, lots of fun. You can see how once you have a robust set of tiles, how easy it would be to kind of start mapping out and creating different game levels, especially for a 2D game. All right, guys, so let's wrap here. We've covered quite a lot today. Try to get as much of your tiles spoken to for Sunday, okay, for the 28th. And then Monday I can kind of do another review. Any last kind of minute tweaks or adjustments that we need, we can look at making those for that week. The final assignment will be due on the 5th of March. I'm going to update the PDF so it has a little more clarity in terms of section 4, in terms of like having the actual level layout spoken to. All right. Other than that, guys, thanks. I appreciate your time. And if anyone has questions, let me know. If anyone wants to meet, outside of class time, has some questions for that, just send me an email and we can arrange something. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Real quickly, would it be possible to share my screen and because I want to see if it's okay?